Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Southbridge Council of the Whole meeting on Wednesday, November 16, 2022 at approximately 7:10 p.m. in the McKinnon Council chambers. I apologize to the viewing public. We're running a couple of minutes late here. We had a previous meeting that went long. First order of business this evening is to call the meeting to order. The second order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 3, roll call.
Councillor Adams.
Present.
Chair Daniel.
Present.
Councillor Dow. Present. Councillor Lazo.
Present.
Councillor Marchetti.
Present.
Councillor Montigny.
Present.
Councillor Rivas.
Present.
Councillor Ryan is excused.
Excused.
Councillor Steeves.
Present.
Very good. We have 8 present. Next order of business, item number 4 is to review and discuss changes to the town charter. As the councils are aware in their packet, they had the most recent draft of the charter, and also I included some minutes from the meeting of January 24th, which regarded the town charter. The backup material draft of the charter review was reviewed by town attorneys and corrected for syntax and some, I forget the word commas and what am I trying to say?
Minor corrections.
Thank you. Very good. And was returned back to us by the attorney in reasonably good form. So now I open it up for discussion to the councilors. Changes that were suggested early in the year were included in the draft as made by the attorneys, the corrections as made by the attorneys, and we can move forward from here. I was thinking that we'd, Councilor Adams? No. I was thinking we'd go section by section. If people have a different idea, I'm open to suggestions as to what you'd like to do, but we can just go section by section. Councilor Marchetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could you move the mic a little bit closer to you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can barely hear you.
There we go. How's this?
Thank you.
Good? That's great. Okay, so we'll go section by section. Very good. Chapter 1, Incorporation, short title, powers and definitions. Any corrections or suggestions for Chapter 1? Okay, I'm going to mark that as okay. Chapter 2, the Town Council. Councilor Steeves.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. Given the fact that we have such an issue with getting some people on other boards and commissions, I was wondering if we might want to consider the idea of amending Section 2-2-2 to change it to read, no councillor shall hold any other paid town office during his or her term of office, and then go to have it say, and may hold no more than one unpaid appointed seat on a board or commission. Because I know in some communities, the selectmen do sit on other boards and commissions, and it's generally accepted in most other forms of town government. I mean, I understand that we want to try to avoid creating a conflict between the council and any other function that we're serving. But I think that it may help to add, in some sense, it may help to create a kind of a liaison relationship between the council and some of the boards and committees that the town also desperately needs to have function effectively. I just thought I'd throw this out there. I was kind of thinking about it, so I thought I'd throw it out there to see what you think.
Councilor Marchetti, then Councilor Montigny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wouldn't be in favor of it only because we are pretty straight out here. I'm on 3 committees right now. I can't imagine serving on another committee. I know that you are already a chairman of one committee and you're on another committee and you're on a 3rd committee, I think. So I think it's just a little too much really for us to be serving on all these other committees as well. And I think you also touched on it being a conflict. I think it could cause a conflict.
I just wanted to throw it out there to see to think about it.
Okay, Councilor Montigny?
Thank you. Well, when it's going to come down to a lot of these suggestions we have tonight, we just always going to have to ask ourselves, is this suggestion or change being made going to be better for Southbridge in the long run or not better for Southbridge? And, you know, we have seen, to the previous speaker, we've seen an influx in some citizens in the last, like, 6 months. And it's been really nice to see. And I wish we had more, as there's still some vacancies out there. But there's a lot of problems that, are they constitutionally written incorrectly, as the charter is really Southbridge's constitution? Or is there a problem with today's world? And I don't think we should fix it, because if you were to do that, you could, that means we could all run for school committee. And we could both be on town council and school committee. And then that just poses like some sort of, I don't know, aristocracy. I don't know how you want to call it. It's just not, I don't, it opens up for, in the future, 5 years, none of us are here anymore. Someone could do something weird with that. But I see what you're saying, and it's a good point, but I don't think personally that we should do that.
Thank you. Councilor Adams, then Councilor Oswald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I do agree with the previous two speakers, but, you know, obviously this is a discussion to have. I think there needs to be a separation of the power at that point in time, and this is what it's basically telling us, is to keep us away from that area because of the influence they can actually have or perceive to have. So at this point in time, I really do believe that we should be left alone, and you know, a lot of us would take on other committees. Now, to the previous speaker, I will say this: every year we always have gaps in some of our boards here and there, and we do I think the town does a pretty good job pushing it out there through social media, website, and stuff like that. So we do have influxes here and there. Sometimes it dies out, but I mean, I've seen it for 4 years in a row where we've had some gaps and we fill them as we push them through. So, yeah, you know, I think every town experiences that. But I would leave this one alone, my recommendation.
Councilor Lazo, then Councilor Rivas.
I think as we walk through the charter here tonight, and this is just one suggestion, which I understand where Councilor Steves is coming from, and I'm interested in it, but as we walk through this, I've seen charter revisions, and I've sat on a different council with 13 members. The powers, duties, and responsibilities have to be direct and bold on who does what. In the early days, the town manager took the place of the selectmen, and the councilors took the place of the people. It's a representative form of government. So as you walk through this document on structuring of appointing, finance, or any subject that we go through, I think we have to do not create the gray areas, but allow the positions to work. But we've seen it throughout different council meetings. We point to a portion of the charter saying, this is your job, this is my job, these are my responsibilities, this is your responsibility. I really think that it's a tough tug of war, and it's not easy to leave enough gray area for people to work within the bounds of the charter. That's why the Constitution is probably one of the best documents, by allowing and surviving for the test of time, in allowing people to work within their own beliefs and still disagree and still come up with the solutions. But the definition and the division of the power between the managers, the council, the administration, and you go right down into the boards and commissions. We've always had a problem getting volunteers for boards and commissions since I've been involved. But I think we've had a great influx this past year for whatever reason. But going forward, I think we need the definite bold line between powers, duties, and responsibilities of the council, of the manager, and of the boards and commissions. Thank you.
Very good. Councilor Rivas.
Well, I do understand the intent of your recommendation, and, you know, I know that you were clear in saying that it wouldn't be elected or paid, you know, positions, but I do have a concern around being inclusive of different perspectives on different boards and committees, and you know, I think that in recent, you know, like people being interested recently on, I think we've seen an influx of diverse perspectives, diverse ages, and I think that by doing that, we could create a situation where the same perspectives, and it would discourage other people from wanting to participate. So I would also not be in favor of that, but I do understand your intent.
Councilor Dow.
Just an idea.
No pass? Very good. Okay. You're all set?
Just an idea.
Very good.
Okay.
No problem. Let's move on then to anything else for Section 2 eligibility. Councilor Montigny.
Well, first I want to say thank you to the committee, because last time you guys had a meeting on this, I wasn't on the board yet, and I do appreciate all their hard work. I really don't have any problems with Section 2, the way that they've amended it. But I'd like to throw something out there, especially since I've never been able to put some input in. The creation of a 2-4-7, which is the final part of general powers and duties.
Well, we're in Section 2 right now. We'll get to there in a second. Let's just, we'll get there.
I mean, I thought I am in Section 2. Oh, you're in Section... Oh, you're in Chapter 2, Section 2. Okay, very good.
Okay, no problem. We'll get there. Anything else for Section 2 eligibility? Very good. Section 3 compensation. Okay, here we go. Section 4. Councilor Montigny.
Actually, I had an idea. Maureen and I were talking about this a couple of days ago.
The microphone.
Sorry about that. I was wondering, even though it says we could theoretically get an annual salary, and we haven't for ever since long before I was on the council. Would it be legal to have, and maybe we could expand this to the other boards and commissions as well, but anybody who serves a town board or commission, would it be legal for them to get like tax breaks, so that they get something off of their property taxes or something? I don't know if that's even legal. Just an idea.
Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So to answer the councilor's question, first of all, not a lawyer here,
No.
but I will say this: I've seen in other towns where that has happened. So I don't know how that would go about us doing something like that.
Yeah.
But I have seen it, and maybe that's something that the TM can take a look at down the road. You know, charter change, this is a charter review, this is a charter change. The charter could always be changed by town council down the road again, even if it's just one item. We can take a look at it, but it's not a bad idea to take a look at that. I will state this, is there's been plenty of people that said, you know, the town council should be paid something for it, right? I already knew what I got into when I was elected.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be advocating for it. But if the council so chose to do something down the road like that, I think it'd behoove us those that are here, not to receive anything until the next cycle went around or something like that. I think there's got to be some brain power to this. But to answer that, to go back to Councilor Steves, I have seen other towns.
I mean, I wouldn't even be on the council by the time this comes through. So.
Councilor Rivas.
I would be open to looking specifically about other boards, because I think it could attract more people, because it is very time consuming to be on boards and on this council. Maybe a stipend, I would be interested in the town manager looking into it. And I agree that this particular body wouldn't be involved in getting that stipend.
Councilor Montigny.
Thank you. I do recall, whether it was 20 years or 30 years ago, there used to be some form of stipend for the town council. And it's not out of the realm of legality. It certainly can be done. But I agree with all the previous speakers, and, something you can revisit in the future in another cycle. But I mean, small stipend is whatever, but I'm not going to push for it now. Not my opinion. Thank you.
Councilor Lazo.
The actual, I was on school committee when that passed the ballot of paying the council and the school committee. I think it was like $100 a month, something like that was $2,000. If you were the chair, it was an extra $1,000. And a lot of citizens were pushing for it because they had complaints of the quality of councilors. And they thought that if you paid them, the quality of the council would go up. That was the actual argument at the time. I donated my money. I took my money and I donated it back to, I think it was Pop Warner or one of the charities. But the thing is, it's when you're sitting here you're going to vote yourself a raise. You're as bad as Washington, D.C. I don't think, I volunteered, and I think that volunteerism, we have to keep going with it. I mean, it's what built the community. There's a lot of volunteers, charity, and various good-hearted people. But if somebody ran for a paycheck, this is the wrong job. Thank you.
I totally agree with that. It's also a way of rewarding all of the people and all of these various other boards and commissions that do all kinds of work for the town and don't
Well,
get much. So
I think there was a Board of Selectmen got their health insurance paid.
that
I
could
think there
count.
was another town, there was a big study done, and Southbridge was one of the only ones, there was no benefit to being on town council or school committee, where the other communities were kind of like the example of, well, how come everybody does this, but we're the only town doesn't, and it passed. And it was, to cover the gas, they said, something you're driving your car every day to meetings. So it wasn't a lot of money, but, I sought to donate it back. Thank you.
Very good. Councilor Dow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I'm against it. What's the point when you want to get paid? Then let's turn it to full-time job. Then, it's going to start $100, $50. It's going to, example, I was on a fire department 2001 till 2007. At the beginning, it was no money because call firefighter. And then at the end, it was when you respond to the fire, we pay you the hour you spend there, and then the call department fall parts. Now the full-time people, why we're going to get the callman to get paid? What we can hire more people and we keep them full-time job. That's why the call department fall apart. There's no more volunteers, no more auxiliary, no more callmen. It's only a few of them now go back, but that's why for a year we don't have call fire department. It's important the residents to give something to the community, to feel like the love. I mean, that's what you live here, you love this town, you should be volunteer, you should give something, you should be active, not for money, from your heart. Thank you.
Very good. Councilor Rivas.
I think it's sort of the same concept with internships and sort of the conversation about access, because people may not be able to afford to volunteer. That is kind of a luxury for many of us that we're able to, and we're not talking about paying someone's paying their rent, but certainly a small stipend for someone who is a single mother or someone who is on a fixed income. I think that could spark people to want to participate more, and you would get more diverse perspectives and not the same people running over and over and over again. Just a thought.
Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's just incentivize it. That's all it is, a small incentive to help here and there. And I think that's the whole purpose behind this whole section is to do that. But, this is something that a future town council or the current town council can negotiate and set up themselves. But I have nothing wrong with what it says right here. So thank you.
So no changes to the language at this point? Leave the language where it is. And then we'll just investigate. Very good. Okay, any other questions on Section 3? Compensation. Very good. Section 4, general powers and duties. Councilor Montigny, I think this is yours.
Yeah, if nobody else has anything else. There's the last issue I brought up at Councilor's Forum was really important to me about the lack of the local person getting acknowledged or having any sort of, it just seems, as we all know, in certain departments or the town or the school, that the local person actually has a worse chance of getting hired, or at least that's the talk on the street, okay? So if you read 246, it says the town council or its members may freely and fully discuss with the town manager anything pertaining to the appointment or removal of any town officer and employee, but neither the town council nor its members shall in any way dictate the appointment or removal of any officer or employee under the jurisdiction of the town manager unless otherwise specified by the charter. So I am proposing that immediately after in 247, the town council may by a majority vote of 5, dictate the appointment or removal of any officer or employee under the jurisdiction of the town manager.
All right, we'll start over here with Council Lazo.
I'm not sure I'm against what he's saying. I just would think about maybe a 2/3 vote to make it difficult on that. You would have to have, in order for this thing to kick in, you would have to have a manager out of control and an incompetent being appointed to the position or something, or substandard candidate, or the PAL. I'm creating some bad situations in order for this to kick in. So, and it can happen, and I think the concept is good. I'm in favor of it. I'm not sure I'm in favor of the simple majority of 5. I would like it to go to 2/3. If I want to see some other discussion from other councils.
All set? Very good. Councilor Steves.
I think I kind of understand where you're coming from, but to me, that immediately makes me concerned about starting to see way too much politicization of jobs that really aren't our purview as councilors. I mean, I understand the argument that obviously if they're they're doing town jobs, they are in some degree representative of the community, and they should be responsive to the community. But I think that is ultimately the whole point of the town manager's job, is to make sure that they do their jobs. And we, by charter, we have say over what the town manager does, as long as we're not directly trying to manipulate the whole the whole chain of command as town government goes, because then you end up having a situation where you have a lot of favoritism going on in certain town offices and so forth, and you end up having situations where you have a few councilors trying to, behind closed doors, essentially shoehorn their friends into offices. That turns into serious corruption and becomes a dysfunctional situation, I would see, where you end up having, in some cases, exactly the thing that you're trying to prevent. Because yes, I agree that there can be situations. I think we all saw the situation a while back where we got a recommended appointment that was not qualified, and we voted it down because it was not qualified. That is the check and balance that the council provides. That's what we're here for. And I think in some cases maybe we may have some discussions farther down in the charter about whether or not we should have so many situations where we have those kinds of issues, and maybe we should keep them. I'm not vested interest in either way. But I think we saw that with the situation with the DPW, where we had for years not been vetting some of those appointments, and now we've started vetting some of those appointments. And so I think that is our job. That's where the check and balance is. I don't think we should be doing it the way Councilor Montigny is suggesting.
Councilor Rivas.
I tend to agree with Councilor Steves. I think that it would be in direct conflict with 2, 4, 5, and we would be interfering with the daily operations. There's already a remedy. If there's an out-of-control town manager, in section chapter 4, you have the remedy to remove the town manager if you're not happy with the appointments. And again, the checks and balances, as Councilor Steves talked about, we've already seen it in practice. And I think that it politicizes appointments, and it does open up a pathway to corruption. So I would be against it.
Councilor Montigny.
Thank you. I appreciate being able to, through you, Mr. Chair, being able to hear everybody's opinion on the matter. You're talking about, one of the previous speakers said shoehorn your friends in there. Well, it's not so much your friends, but the local guy, whereas opposed to maybe a town manager from out of town would try to do the same for their own friends far away. I'm not saying that this is happening now. I'm just giving you an example of why, if anybody's going to be able to make that decision, it could be the town council. I can see, though, one of your points talking about how it could be out of our purview of expertise, maybe, in some of the situations. And for that, you're not there day to day with the employee once they're hired. I could see how it wouldn't make sense for you to be able to remove an employee. But maybe when it comes to an appointment by 2/3, you could change it so it would say, just simply, the town council may by a 2/3 vote of 6 dictate the appointment of any officer or employee under the jurisdiction of the town manager. And to the other previous speakers, direct conflict of 245, it is not. It is not day-to-day operations. It is an extension of 246, which states at the end, unless otherwise specified by this charter, very simply sets you up to make 247. So you do, if you want it or not, 6 votes to appoint, and that would be it. It makes it so you can't go in there and just drain the swamp. You give the local guy, because here I am not speaking on behalf of anybody else except the voters. I'm not trying to hire anybody by putting this in here. This has to go to the voters. I'm trying to think of, for myself, what is the charter and what is its value? It's a document by the people, for the people, and how they want to be governed. It's the Constitution. So for that, I believe that this town wants to see more local people hired. I know this town wants to see more people hired at the school district on that level locally, and this could be a start. 6 votes to appoint, get rid of removal, and I would, for the sake of voting on the amendment, I would make look for a motion and a second on that. If we could vote yes or vote no, put it to bed, say we discussed it. But I think it's important to me and important to the voters and the citizens of this town that the local candidate be given some sort of help here, because clearly it's something like the opposite going on, in my opinion, and I think this is a way to do it. Thank you.
Councilor Lazo, then Councilor Adams.
Chair Daniel, I raised my hand after...
Yeah, I yield to Dow. Dow had his hand up.
It's okay.
Very good.
It's okay, I can
Nope,
wait to the end.
Nope, go ahead. He yields to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, we get elected by the people in town to present them in here, to represent them, to serve them the best for the community. What's our job? We can't do nothing except move money from this account to this account. I feel like I'm just like nothing here. I don't feel like I'm anybody. When one of the citizens come to me and say, Joseph, what's going on? I'm sorry, I can't do nothing. I'm limited. I just have to follow what they give me on a paper. And I think it's a political. When you have town manager doesn't live in town, DPW doesn't live in town, fire chief doesn't live in town, police chief doesn't live in town. What you left for the town? If we represent the people here, we can't make a decision for them. What's the point to have me here? I don't want to be here. What's the point if we can't do nothing? Town manager today is here. Tomorrow is not. He's leaving. He doesn't care what he's going to leave behind him. DPW the same. The fire chief the same. The police chief the same. Who's going to be stuck in this town? Us and the people living here. The people born here, the people raised in here, the people pay tax. They have to drive to Worcester and Boston to get a job. And we get elected by them. We can't do nothing for them. I don't get it. Like, I don't get it, for real. Like, I shouldn't be here. I'm sorry. I'm not, either, like, we need to do something for these people. We're not saying we need to do political or control, but still we have a job to make sure the people living here get what they deserve. I think 6 votes to be able to appoint somebody, I think that's good. That's super good. We're not saying 1 or 2 councils that can come and do whatever they want, but I think that's fair enough. If you have somebody corrupted in one of the departments and we know he's not good, just because, I'm not saying recently or or whatever present right now in the past, not good, and you want to get rid of him because he's failing to do his job, he's favoring other people, he's doing things irrespectable or whatever in the department, just because we don't have no authority to remove him, we have to wait till the town manager either leave because he was, or she was, or he was, whatever it is, buddy, that's his call. I think this is wrong. I think the town council need a lot of power, same thing like the town manager. Why he have to come in here for $50? We're all trying to look for that. Why the town council, they can't fire or hire somebody for 6 votes? I don't get it. Thank you.
I wanted to wave the American flag before him.
Council Lazo.
I got to tell you, thank you, Mr. Chairman. People want to scream politics all the time. You're damn right it's politics, because that's what you hold a political office. Don't try and take the politics out of politics. You look foolish. My thing is, when you have, and I said it earlier, the shift of a power decision, it is the shifting of the power. There are two kinds of, there's a strong town manager form of government, which I served under in the early days. Then the town's people did not want to see the power on his side, wanted to see the power on the council side. They adjusted this charter to take power away from the manager. Originally, the manager was the one-member licensing board in the whole state. It was the only example that he had to say over all licenses in the town of Southbridge. No town ever had one like that. The most strong town manager form of government, except for Franklin. Now, going forward, the town did not like that. They changed it. And we are here to further change it if we think. I respect everything you said about this, what you think the role of a counselor is and what you think the role of a manager is. I can swallow that because you have an opinion on that. I might disagree with you, but it's a correct opinion in your eyes. But to say it's making it political, no. This is management. Learn how to be a counselor. This section 4, whatever, 247 that he's creating, and I'm saying not a bad thing. Not a bad thing if it's done correctly. Because we have a position right now that the council voted on. It's still not filled 6 months later. And I turn around, I'm like, and we have overqualified candidates sitting online waiting for that position. The council, if it had this is an example, they could turn around and say, we're going to direct the manager to fill the position. Now, this is a power shift from the manager's sandbox into the council's sandbox. The question in front of us is that where you want the power to be? If it's no, just say no, it doesn't belong there. And don't say it's political, because it is political. That's your job as a politician. I'm not a very good politician, but I think when you look at stuff like this, you think, okay, what's the check and balance on the council? If you give the council the power to remove or to replace, you need to make it tougher on the council, so it has to be a severe wrong in order to use it. Other than that, this 247 does not go into action unless it's a severe case. Well, how do you prove severe case? By making it more difficult, by making it a 2/3 vote. So in other words, if you have say you have a crazy council, I'm just being facetious, and they just want to go after this. 2/3 vote is a hard vote to get on the council of 9. So moving forward, I would support this with a 2/3 vote, because I do think sometimes the arrogance of the manager pisses me off, because, well, I'm not going to do that.
Counselor.
Well, I didn't do this. Well, I don't want to do that. Well, there has to be a check and balance. And the one thing Joe Dow said that not a counselor up here can argue, we take the place of the people in the town meeting. We are the voice of the people. The power belongs in the people's hands, not in the manager's hands. That's why so many people have administrators and not managers, and then they have managers but weak town manager. You want a strong town manager? You continue to give the manager the power. There's no right and wrong, it's a flavor. And I personally think that the experience that I've had, this would have been a nice thing in some of those instances. Not to beat the manager up, to disagree with the manager and to move the agenda forward and not let it sit there for 3 to 4 months. That's the only thing I'm saying. Thank you.
Councilor Adams.
Just clarification, what are you proposing? There's been a lot of talk up here. Can you just go back over that real quick?
If you don't mind, I would, if you want me to make the motion, I will just simply make a motion to add 247, the town council may, by a two-thirds vote of 6, dictate the appointment of any officer or employee under the jurisdiction of the town manager. And I'd like to make that a motion.
Second.
Again, the town council may, by a vote of 6, two-thirds, dictate the appointment of any officer or employee under the jurisdiction of the town manager.
The motion is made by Councilman Tigney, seconded by Councilor Dow. Councilor Adams.
Clarification, just real quick. You said 6 and then two-thirds. Which one is it?
Well, a lot of the times, through you, Mr. Chair, in this charter, it shows up as two-thirds, 6. As there are 9 councilors right now, it'll always be that. I'm open to something different, but I was just looking for the consistency. It says two-thirds and 6 a lot at the same time. If you want to take out two-thirds, go ahead.
No,
Yeah.
just putting clarification in here, just because you got a two-thirds, right? So in normal settings, we'd have 9 sitting here.
Two-thirds of 9.
But
Yeah.
there's been times when we only had 7 up here. And so do you say 6 or do you say two-thirds vote? I just want to clarify, I just want to put that down, then we can discuss it from that point.
6.
That's all.
6, a good point, yep.
6
Right,
votes.
yep.
All right, so you can delete two-thirds vote and just say by a vote of 6 councilors.
Okay, very good. Well, do you,
Look, I don't want to be the fun sucker here.
No,
but,
Councilor Adams,
you know,
please.
what if you ended up having only 5 showing up one day and you
let-
did? I mean, where do you
Two-thirds.
go? I just want to clarify to make sure legality-wise that we're on the same sheet.
6.
Okay.
Well, let's let some other people talk here. We have a motion and a second. The next person that I have recognized to recognize is Councilor Rivas and then Councilor Marquetti.
So through the chair, again, we have other remedies in Chapter 4. Also, in your goals and objectives for the town manager, you could implement sort of prioritizing, make that a condition of the goals and objectives of the town manager to seek to hire local people. There are other ways to do that. What we're saying is then we don't need an HR director who is trained to create performance evaluations. We don't need those then if people up here are going to take the place of the professionals who went to school to do this job. A performance evaluation can demonstrate whether someone isn't doing their job. There are checks and balances already in place. When you take that power out of people who, again, were trained professionals, went to school, and we have checks and balances already built into the charter, built into our procedures and processes, so we shouldn't have a town manager. If we're going to dictate who gets hired, who gets fired, we don't need an HR director, we don't need a town manager, then we just do that job. Then we just take the place of those professionals because we think we know better. There is already a mechanism that creates those checks and balances in our charter. We don't need to add something that is going to create more problems. And yes, people do vote for us and elect us to be up here representing them, but they also elect us to understand the charter and to follow the law. We're running an organization. Our town is like an organization. Organizations, their boards don't hire and fire anyone besides the president. The president then hires and fires everyone else. Right. If it was, if the boards were hiring, firing everyone else, then I would see the argument. But we do have those checks and balances in place, and I think that we're treading into dangerous territory by taking over processes that most people that are up here are not qualified to make those determinations.
Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I would not be in favor of this either. For me, it's a matter of morale, and I think the employees, I don't want to have them looking over their shoulders and what's going to happen, are they going to fire me? So I wouldn't be in favor of this either. I think it's fine the way it is. We are the check and balance on the town manager. But I think, as far as I'm concerned, they're doing a pretty good job of who they hire. I would like to see more local people hired as well, and I think we are addressing that later in the charter. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Lazo.
People that are qualified, the word qualified is being thrown around up here. What makes somebody qualified? Being a citizen of Southbridge, being a taxpayer, being a businessman, running 3 businesses, owning real estate, running their business like a business, or I look across the way, Councilor Dow, very successful in town of Southbridge, many things going on. I think he's damn well qualified to make a decision on an operation of a business structure, more than HR, more than the manager, because he has common sense and knowledge of the operations of a bigger unit. Now, the manager's job is to carry out the will of the council. It's in the charter. And the councilors answer to the people. For me, I think Councilor Adams brought up a great point, that one of the things, what if there's 5 councilors at a meeting? If it's 2/3 of the 5? No. The thing was, the original charter always had a number. We had 13 councilors, and the majority was 7. It wasn't, in other words, it's 12 there now made it, well, 5 would be the majority with a smaller number. You put the number in, which is clear and clarified. Morale. We're going to talk about morale. The thing is, when you're running a business, there's a boss, and then there's morale, and then there's the board of directors. And the board of directors is basically the council. So if you're not in favor of this, then you want to keep more power down in the rank and file. So when the citizens call you and say, why didn't you make an appointment for 6 months? You have no say, Councilor. It is in the realm of the manager. And by right it should be if this fails. But if it passes, it now has expanded the power to move the agenda to the elected officials. It all depends where you want the power to be. I will be voting in favor of it now that it's 2/3. If it wasn't 2/3, I wouldn't support it, but I think it's got some merit to move the agenda. When you turn around and say, this charter says you can fire the manager, what a joke that statement is. I think Councilor Adams and myself remember the last town manager we wanted to remove. I just got elected to the council. You couldn't remove him with a bulldozer because of the way the contracts are written. You have to buy him out for $1 bazillion. By the time you pay all that, you wasted the taxpayers' dollars. And then you ask yourself, are you qualified to make that decision? Business people don't like wasting money. People that don't have jobs don't know because they don't have any money. So moving forward, you have to look at the quality of your council. And I think we have a good council. We have a cross-section of different beliefs, even on this issue. We're going to disagree, we're going to vote, we're going to move on. But, I just think that, it is a good thing. I've been around long enough to see a good thing when I know when I see one. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Dow, then Councilor Steves, then Councilor Montigny.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you again. I understand, Councilor Rivera, we hire experts. I live in town 25 here, and I see everyone we hire, except the one present. I want to put Mr. McCall on the side, not because me and him we got along, just because he's a great guy and he came after a deep hole, and he's trying to clean a lot of mess. So I don't want to put him in the middle, not because I got along with him, just because he's doing a great job. I'm going to give him credit for that. Previous town manager. I was in town council. Every time I come here to do some paperwork, he's sitting in one of the departments having fun. Nothing was done in this town. Nobody was hired. Nobody was removed because he's too lazy. At that time, what the council can do? Nothing. We have half the department failed for providing service for the public. Attitude. Number 1, service. Everything. Nothing left in this town. Half the council was here is only about, I got muscle more than you. I'm going to raise my voice and fight everybody to look good, just to get re-elected again and get the power for themselves. I think right now we're looking in a different way. I don't need nothing from nobody except from God. I am going to look for the people live in town. I used to travel to Boston every day to get a job. And I know how hard it is. We bring in head department from different area. What's the penalty or the punishment we're giving him if they fail to do their job? Nothing. He can just say, he doesn't even have to say goodbye to you. He's just going to grab his car and leave. What you get after that? I hire experts, but he doesn't do his job. So what we left with? It's not right. I don't think it's right. Oh, so every small thing we're going to fire the town manager? No. We can. I think it should be somewhere we can write him over on certain thing. I'm not saying we're going to do his job, but it's not fair if people live in the town, qualify, volunteer for free, and then we go hire 4 of them from different towns to serve the town of Southbridge. What we have, a lot of people volunteer for the town, they can't get the job full time. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. Thank you.
Councilor Steves.
I think that to some degree what Joe was saying is true. It is not fair. However, I don't think this particular proposal actually fixes that. And I'm not quite sure how to go about fixing that, to be honest with you. Because I think all of us generally agree that we would like to see the town's residents have more say in the way the town functions. That's why we're all here. I think we do agree with that. We are all town residents. We all ran for office because we thought we could do something better than what we were seeing. That's why we're here. And as you pointed out, we are also all volunteers. I've been on this council for almost 9 years now. And some of, Maureen has been on conservation for almost 25 years now. Some of the other people in our boards have been there for decades. Some of them died on their boards because they were, 20 years ago because they'd been there for 40 years. So there's certainly, maybe the issue then is not necessarily having the kind of intervention that this proposal would have. I think maybe a better way to look at it is how do we reward the people that are participating to come and encourage them to come forward and participate to the level of their ability and train them so that they can really do the job right. I don't see, unfortunately, this kind of a proposal solving those issues. And to go back to something that Councilor Alonso said earlier, we on the council are not managers, we are legislators.
Right.
And there's a huge difference between the functions. We are not here on a day-to-day basis. That's his job, and the department manager's job. And while we have a vested interest in making sure that the town hall and the various functions that town hall does function properly, because we live here, we should be concerned about that. But I would like to point out that other legislative functions do not have that kind of intrusiveness. You don't see it in Congress. You don't see it in the legislature. You don't see it in other towns where town meetings function. In some respects, maybe what you are talking about is instead of having this be a situation where 9 councilors would make those kinds of decisions, maybe what you're talking about is essentially a reversion to town meeting form of government, which is obviously it would be a total change of this charter. And maybe is something the town would be willing to debate. We kind of had this discussion back I think it was just before I came on the council. Maybe, I think it was the year I started on the council, actually, was the ballot question about whether or not we wanted to go back to a town meeting form of government, and it got shot down. I don't remember exactly when it was. But I think that was primarily because, quite frankly, the ballot question was badly worded and badly designed. And it was not well thought out on how the transition process would work. But something like that maybe is something that the town wants to consider. I don't know. It wasn't well researched. I don't think it was well promoted. I don't think it was well debated at the town level. Maybe it's something to consider. But that is certainly not what this charter does. And that is not something that Councilor Montigny's proposal would do either. So I still don't think that does what you want it to do.
Councilman Montigny.
Thank you very much. Well, I can understand people disagreeing with the proposal. I appreciate very much the discussion. I think it should be on public record that we've discussed this because somebody has to fight for the local people. It's just some of the things I'm hearing from the other side of the argument are completely irrelevant. Qualified? Well, of course we're qualified. The most recent voters said that myself and Councilor Marchetti and Councilor Rivas are qualified to make these types of decisions. And you want to talk about my qualifications? I have a business degree in administration from a private business school, graduated honors in Massachusetts. Maybe I know something about business, maybe I know nothing. And everybody, these counselors talking about who gets hired and fired, looking over their shoulder. The motion I made is for appointment only. We're not talking about boards firing people here. The motion is for appointment only. Like I literally ask, are you listening to what is going on? Because I know we're moving fast. But listen, goals and objectives, useless. I didn't even get my goals and objectives put on there, and there's nothing in this charter really about all that goals and objectives like holding to it. And chapter 4, you want to get 6 counselors to fire a manager because he hasn't hired a mid-management position in 4 months? I don't really want to do that. I want to have something that I can do to put this problem away and say, you know what, you've got 100,000 things on your plate. This didn't go well, but we're ready to move forward on somebody else. There's no language about firing in my motion, okay? Simple. 6 votes, you can appoint someone. It is checks and balances, and it's not out of order for this council to suggest to put it in, or for the voters to suggest to put it in. It doesn't screw up the charter. The language is immediately before allowing you to write something like this. It is a fine suggestion. We're going to vote on it. If you don't want to vote on it, vote no. 6 people to appoint, that's it. Thank you.
All right, I'm still trying to get people to speak a second time. Councilor Marchetti, do you wish to add anything to your previous statement?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When Councilor Montigny first brought this up, he did say removal. I know that it's not in his agenda, amendment that he made, but he did use the word removal. That's why I spoke about not wanting us to get involved with that. I really don't have anything to add, except I think I'd like to move the question.
Second.
Okay, we have a vote to move the question in a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The question is not moved. Very good. Are you finished with your statement, Councilor Marchetti?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, let's start over again. Councilor Rivas, we'll start here and go that way.
Okay. Through you, Chair, Mr. Chair. Councilor Dow, I did see exactly what you're talking about, and I do agree with you in that sense completely. And sort of my thinking is we had a search committee that had counselors on it. We also had a contract that the counselors put together. And so those are, what were the remedies in that? It's very difficult to get rid of someone once you bring them in. So you have to do the right thing at the beginning. I work with HR very closely as a DEIA director. And the beginning of the process, that's where you have to get it right so that you can get the right person in that is going to do the job so that we wouldn't have to be here discussing changing the charter in this way. And I think that, looking at a contract and putting a contract together where maybe you have a remedy in the contract when a manager is not doing their job, but you don't want to fire them, performance evaluation in the contract. So there are other pieces where you get the right person in from the very beginning who is going to hire local people. I completely agree with you in that sense that people do struggle to find jobs in town, good jobs. And we want to develop people in our community, and we want to attract people in our community to work in our town hall. And I do think that this town manager and our HR director have been working to do that. And I just think that I agree with Councillor Steves that this proposal doesn't do that.
Very good. Councilor Lazo, then Councilor Dow.
When everybody runs for office, we all use the words transparency, oversight, and accountability. Then when we get here, we do not implement it. My thing is, the reason why I thought this was a good approach, and I would not be in favor of this if this was anything to do with firing. I'm in favor of this if it's just about hiring, to move the agenda when it stalls. That's the oversight we should have over our manager as a town council and as a government. I'm not looking to do his job. This is no reflection on, I work very well with this town manager. I've had issues with the town manager, we work them out. Just like this proposal. This, a 2/3 vote of the council to oversight on and accountability. If this passes, that town manager will realize that if he doesn't move on these issues, that the council is looking at him and could help him move that agenda. So I'm not looking at this as a dirty thing. This is hiring. This is oversight to the manager. That is what the council should have more of, not do his job. I'm against that. I already know what the manager's job is. I know what he has to do. I'm there to assist him, to understand where he's coming from when he makes an appointment. And if I disagree, I can disagree with him and vote against it. But this here is a fine example of oversight where it sits there and due to a lack of action by the manager would get the council to engage on this, and then that would move the manager. It's not a firing thing. I'm not in favor of firing anybody. Nobody wins when someone gets fired. We have non-renewals, they're bad enough. Never mind firing somebody, and especially the manager. It never works out well. It never works out well for the community, for the image of the town and anything. So, you have to be a real bad guy or an embezzler of some sort to get fired from a municipality. You have to do something wrong, morally or financially to the community. So I think that's really a stretch. I think right now this would help with the accountability and the oversight that we always promise at the polls. Moving forward, I would vote yes. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Councilor Dow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. The citizen vote us to be here to read the charter. Who make the charter? Why we're here to discuss it then? Isn't it to see what's bad and good to fix it? The council review the charter, the board, member, whatever, and then we vote on it and we'll put it out there. We look what the best for the people in the town of Southbridge. We do the charter. People vote for us because they trust us. They know we're gonna do the best we can to do better Southbridge. Town manager, he hired by recommendation from the head department. Is that correct, Mr. McCall? Thank you. Thank you. So let's not put everything on the town manager. Let's not make the town manager the bad guy. Like I say, if we have a head department, he want to hire his body. Like what I heard from somebody say, we have the best candidate for the director of the DPW, but he wouldn't come here if he doesn't bring his friend. I heard it. It is political or not? Have nothing to do with the town manager. It have to do something with the head department too. They want to hire their own friend, their own people, their own. And I think this is very important to put it in that charter. Or I don't think we should have town council. It should be manager elected by the people, and then let them run the town. We're here only to move money from account to account. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, one quick second.
Certainly.
I just want the public to know that when I look at this, this is not looking at Mike McCall. It is not the person in the position, it's the position I'm talking about, the manager. And this document that we're tweaking, that's been worked on by a charter commission appointed by the council, is going to be voted on at the ballot. So the people of the community are going to have the last say. So why don't we put this one on the ballot and see what they say about it? Give them the option to shift some accountability to the council and some oversight. Document goes to the voters. Thank you.
Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A lot of conversation to be had on this one, which is, it's a good point. I agree with it. I do see the point of it. I will counter on some of these things, though. I have the charter. I'm a town councilor. It's my responsibility to know the charter. It's my responsibility to be a representative of the people. And I, you know, normally I don't do a lot of praising, but I got to tell you, you know, I have no problem having a lot of power based on this charter. But I also know my limits. It is checks and balances. I know what I can do. I know what I can't do, and it gives that to me. We pay our town manager very well to make qualified decisions. Most of the time they're great. Sometimes they're not. It is what it is. Just like some of the decisions that we make are good, and sometimes they're not. But I will say, out of 9 of us, there were all 9 of us, you know, it's my responsibility to hold the town manager's feet to the fire, regardless who's sitting in that seat, today, tomorrow, next year, 4 years ago, whatever it may be. And I can differentiate between friendship and professionalism. But to sit there and say this limits my power as a counselor, I'm going to tell you right now, I've been here for 4 years. And I've been able to get a lot of things accomplished with the help of the town manager and the town council. And this is based on the wants and needs of the community. Not successful all the time. There's still a couple things that I would love to see taken care of. That does take time, and we'll work through it. I do believe there's something in here that says, look, if the town manager has this responsibility. You know, 22 years ago, we had a town manager that ran us into the ground. Lack of oversight by the town council. And that's why part of this charter has changed dramatically to make it more responsibility on the town council. And I think it's done a good job on that. I am frustrated by some things that we like to do. I do want to hire Southbridge residents, qualified Southbridge residents to go through. Sometimes that's a personal opinion on who's qualified and who is not. And I would like to see some things moved here. And I respect all my peers up here and the decisions that they're making and the passion that, as my good friend over here to my right always talks about passion. And I see it and I feel it. But at this time, I got to tell you, this isn't limiting me and my powers. You know, I can ask questions. I can manipulate what's happening. I know how to do that. Counselors know how to do that, and everybody in this room has that ability based on their career paths and their life experiences. So I'm actually torn at this point in time. But I look at this in the fundamental way. We pay the town manager to make some decisions for us. Didn't give our authority away. We allow him or her, whoever's in that seat, to do their job. And it's our job is to oversee the town manager, i.e., parts of the goals and objectives is an evaluation system on the department heads that I've been asking for way before this town manager came aboard. That scares people. That scares employees. But why does it scare them? You know, it's the cream of the crop. It's not fair all the time. We're not all created equal. It happens. Some are good at their jobs, some are not. So I truly believe with an evaluation system, that will be parts of the checks and balances. And I think long after I'm gone from this dais, town council should continue expecting evaluations on its department heads, just like we do an evaluation on the town manager. If the town manager's not doing their job and we do it right, we can get rid of whatever town manager it may be. But I think in the end, we give that authority to the town manager. We didn't take it away from us. We hold him accountable for the actions of our employees. That's all I've got. Thank you very much. I appreciate this. Now, I do want to say this. This is a council of the whole. Are we actually voting on something? Because we're not supposed to be voting on anything. We can get a flavor of it. At a regular town council meeting, we can vote on the change. So I'd leave it up to some of the councilors. My fear is we're taking a vote. I can say a consensus, and it can be brought up at the town council meeting when we vote on this. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. If I may, Mr. Chair, could we put it on the next agenda? Vote to accept the amendment of 247, and we could throw it on there on Monday. We've pretty much already discussed it. It should be really rather move the question, and if it gets amended, it gets amended. Because as you can see, there's another thing that you guys discussed back in, when did you have the meeting? Was it January, February?
January.
Yeah, you had the item about living in town, and that has been added by staff based on the recommendations of that meeting. So if we could put it on the next agenda in some form, for Monday, it should be just a quick line item. And I do want to say thank you to everybody. I don't want you to think, if this is something that you vehemently do not support, I don't want you to think we've wasted our time tonight. I think it's our duty as counselors, and I appreciate everybody's, all 8 of our opinions being said tonight. I think it's our duty to the voters to try to stick up for the people of Southbridge and to hear what everybody has to say. I think no matter how this turns out, yes or no in the end, it's important that we discuss this tonight, and I don't want anyone to think this was a waste of time, and I thank you for entertaining it. Can we put it on the agenda?
Yep,
or?
we'll get it on.
Okay. Well,
Very good.
very good.
Okay. Anything else in Section 4, General Powers and Duties? Okay, Section 5, Meetings and Quorum. Section 6, Bylaws. Section 7, Action Requiring a Bylaw. Section 8, Filling Vacancies in the Town Council. Section 9, Chairperson and Vice Chairperson of the Town Council, Election and Removal.
Real quick.
Councilor Montigny.
Do we really need to add that language in 293 and 295? The motion shall be debated and voted. Like, they added the words debated as if every single motion in history isn't debated. I don't know. It just seems like, why do we have to put that there? Like,
That was recommended at a meeting, according to the notes, by the committee in March
yeah.
10th.
No, I
2021.
do see that. I feel like it's a bit redundant, but it doesn't hurt. It's all good. I just want to throw that out there.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good.
Quick observation.
Council Steves.
I wonder if maybe, if that was that the Charter Committee that suggested that? Okay. I wonder if it was maybe a concern that they just wanted to make sure that votes weren't just rammed through without any debate.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if that's the case, but.
Very good. Okay, so that's it for Section 2. Chapter 2, I'm sorry, for Chapter 2. Chapter 3, Other Elected Town Boards and Officers. Section 1, General Provisions. Section 2, Vacancies. Section 3, Regional Vocational School Committee. Section 4, Town Clerk.
Mr. Chair, real quick.
Yep.
I'm sorry, what section are we on? I'm looking at back at some of the
Section
minutes.
3-4.
341.
3-4.
Yep. So I just want to bring this up for future reference. This is not a secret that I've already discussed with the current town clerk and quite a few others. Our town clerk is awesome, period. We know that. She's been doing a great job for this town for so many years, and it's a great thing. But I also have noticed that a lot of town clerks in other towns have been now hired on. Because I will give you an example, and I'll be very vague about that example. We did have an individual or individuals run before that had no qualifications to be running for town clerk. That right there, and I always talk about liability, that position that our town clerk has done an amazing job with her staff down there, high regards. But if we get somebody in there that's wrong, man, I've seen people get right in their vote, right in during the election because nobody was running, and all of a sudden they became the representative of our town. And that concerns me a little bit because, you know, we do want great town clerks. We want to represent our community well. I just want to tell the town council this is something that we need to think about down the road. To have a little time, knock on wood, but I just want to just mention it. That's all I really want to do. Is maybe there may be an appointment down the road that we may have to look at as far as changing this charter to an appointment or elect whatever the town council's flavor is that month. Thank you.
Councilman Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, the town clerk, because she's elected, she has to be a Southbridge resident. So what you want to do is change it to an appointed position so we can hire somebody from out of town, which goes against what we just got done talking about.
Absolutely. So may I answer that real quick?
Certainly.
You put the language in what you need. I'm just telling you, if that's the case, maybe you do put that language in there that it's somebody from the town.
All right.
That's something that, like I said, conversation to add.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm all set.
Council Lazo.
I agree with Council Adams that the conversation that we should be having is not to change the elected official. The purest of democracies are the guys who go to the ballot. They're elected by the people and for the people. The town clerk's position is one of the few that's still left. When I first got elected, the town treasurer was elected. They changed it to appointed. We've basically gutted out, the finance committee was abolished. We got rid of all the elected positions except for the clerk. I personally think the clerk should stay as an elected position. To have a conversation on it, yes. But again, that would put the clerk under the power of the manager. It's the last thing I want to do is give the manager any more power. The position. Understand what I'm saying? It's not the man, it's the position. Enough is enough with an out-of-towner running your community. How much power you want to give him? Now you want to give him the power over the ballots in the clerk's office. I got a real problem with that. I think if you're really about Southbridge, keep it elected and let some qualified Southbridge person run and let them be judged by the ballot. Thank you.
Very good. Section 5, Housing Authority. Section 6, Redevelopment Authority. Section 7, Board of Assessors. Section 8, Powers, Duties, and Compensation. Very good. We're all set with Chapter 3. Chapter 4, the Town Manager. Section 1, Appointment and Qualifications. Section 2, Powers, Duties, and Role.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilor Steves.
Yeah, mine's just a little bit of a quirk in the language that we already have in here. I'm actually proposing language changes. Let me find it again.
Cannot hear, Counselor.
I'm not actually proposing a language change. I'm just thinking that the sections that we have for 4-2-5 and 4-2-6 really ought to be in the same paragraph. because the way 4-2-6 is phrased, you can understand that it's referring to 4-2-5, but the way it stands alone on it could actually refer to anything else in the chapter. It really should be attached to 4-2-6. The two should be one paragraph. Because it's clear that we wrote that to be the majority vote to allow them to allow the manager to exceed the 12 months. But that was the intent, and that makes it clearer if you run the two sentences together.
So just eliminate the numbers 4-2-6?
Yeah, and just make
merge the
it
two
one
paragraphs.
paragraph. Yeah, that's the only thing.
Mr. Chair. 4-2-5. 2-6. And, I'm sorry, Councilman Tigney.
Thank you. I agree with Councilor Steves there that it probably should all be in the same one. Can anybody tell me, though, I was at the meeting, I don't recall there being anybody being directed or talk about the town council may by a majority vote of 5 councilors waive this requirement, but must revisit such a vote annually. Was that brought up in public discussion here?
Yeah, I proposed it.
Okay, to waive it?
Yeah, I proposed it.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, I stand corrected there. I think if you look at the if you have your digital document, there's like a little yellow note that I believe was left by the lawyer.
It was left
And
there.
it says that you need to have a transitional added to this, meaning like the language applies only to said employees newly hired after July 1st, 2023. Much like they have done in the past, where you're striking out some stuff from when the elected charter commission in 2000, 2002, whatever, they had some notes in there. But the lawyers did direct us to put some sort of transition. I think if you put whatever language they feel makes sense of applies only to said employees newly hired after July 1st, 2023, because you don't want to, we want to grandfather in all the manager, this manager here would get grandfathered into that. And I'm proposing too that we add department heads to it. That's where I'm trying to protect the current department heads as well, because I guess I didn't mention that, but we should, in my opinion, add department heads, but we definitely have to put like the grandfather thing, the lawyers directing us for some transition moving forward. But department heads, I would love to see that as a motion on the next agenda on Monday. Something that we can discuss right now, and we can simply, yes or no, department heads go in. And then another motion, yes or no, you grandfather employees in.
Okay, let's discuss it. Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just first, I wanted to go off. I know what Councilor Montigny is talking about, and I would recommend to the chair at this point in time, with some of these changes, instead of Monday, because it's a quick turnaround to get this stuff done and then put out there, let's wait until December.
Good.
If you don't mind. This is something
mind.
that the chair and I had discussed about. Don't rush too far into it just because there's changes today. Why don't we do that, and then we come back with down the road.
That's fair.
Very soon with us to vote on that stuff through a regular town council meeting, or even a special town council meeting, whatever it may be. But the other part is, I think we did discuss that with the department heads, and I believe it was voted on by that town council.
It was.
Not for the department heads.
It was.
It was in there to waive for the current town manager, but to make it a requirement. I remember going, I can agree with that, something like that, but not the department heads. I don't know if we have to revisit something like that, even though it's already been voted down once.
Well, if I may, just to answer you, the same way that the failed tie and bond got revisited and passed for West Street from the old agenda to the new, or from the old council to the new council, I think it's worth revisiting.
Can I make one point of clarification? Maybe this, I believe the ones that voted it down, which was the majority, has to bring it back up.
But it's a different council.
That is true.
Doesn't matter. Well, you know what? I take that back. It's something we have to research. Okay.
Well, if we can, I think we should, at least for the entertainment of discussion, throw it on to that next one.
Okay, Counselor Marquetti, then Rivas, then Lazo.
No, I'm all set. I don't have anything.
You all set? Very good. Counselor Rivas.
I just have a clarifying question about 4-2-6. Does that coincide with the, the evaluation of the town manager and their contract? Or not, the waiving of it? Where it says revisit such a vote annually?
I can answer that question, Mr. Chairman, since I proposed it.
Certainly.
My intention for that particular section was specifically about to revisit the vote that allows him to not be a resident for a certain time. But I'm saying that after the 12 months, if there are reasons that he's not a resident and we are aware of them, I'm saying that the idea is that we have to revisit the vote every so often, just so that we're basically current on what's going on and why.
Okay.
That's the intent, basically.
Thank you. I also had another question about 4-2-4. And I was curious about the part where it says, shall have the power to appoint on the basis of merit and fitness alone. I feel like there are other measures, and the word alone is kind of problematic to me.
All right. Let's see. Okay. You're talking 424. We're on 425 and
Okay.
426 right
Sorry.
this second. Let's just see if there's further discussion on 425 and 426. Councilor Montigny.
Thank you. I just wanted to note that to the previous speaker talking about contract problems, again, the lawyer is looking for us to kind of grandfather in this case, Mr. McCall.
Yes.
So there wouldn't be. It would be something where in the next town manager or the next town manager's contract, or however you wanted to work it, it would be grandfathered for him, of course, but, you would make sure that you don't violate the charter if this
Right.
were passed, and you
Right.
would have that in there. But I don't think anybody's expecting us to violate any current contracts by passing that. Yeah,
Agreed.
I just wanted
Agreed.
to throw that.
Okay. I have Councilor Lazo next.
The expansion of having a department heads live in town, along with the exemption of anybody that's already a department head. I just want to tell the council, I served on a council where every department head lived in town. Town manager lived in town. And it was such a different type of organization because the ownership they took to the community they lived in is much different than you living in another town and just working here and driving our vehicle back home to their hometown. If anybody thinks that it's not different, I think they're incorrect. Unless you lived it, when we were in All-American City, when we were at Top End in Southbridge, all department heads lived in Southbridge. Granted, some of the employees lived in Southbridge, some didn't, but every one of those department heads lived in Southbridge. The manager lived in Southbridge. It was a much better organization and a better community for it. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. All right, over here. Councilor Rivas.
Now, would it count if they were from Southbridge but didn't live in Southbridge anymore? How would that work? If they were from Southbridge but didn't live in Southbridge anymore, would that count or would that not qualify them?
I think we're discussing the residency clause. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you were raised in Southbridge, I mean, I definitely would lean towards appointing. But the thing is, we're talking about residency. Residency meaning they have to live in Southbridge. Even if they come from out of town and say they're from East Boston, they get a job as chief of police or firefighter, or fireman, fire chief. The department head, tax collector would have to live in town. That's what the residency clause is.
Through the chair. And I do understand the residency clause, but in regards to the waiving the residency, would that constitute sort of like a reason to waive that clause if they were from town but didn't live here anymore? That was my question.
I don't know. I'm not in favor of the waiving.
I think that would be up to the individual council.
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, anything else on 425 and 426?
Mr. Chair.
Council Montigny.
Thank you. To the previous speaker's comments, I can definitely see what you're saying about being born and raised in Southbridge. You talk about the different department heads. How much money can the recreation director really make? Are they going to move here for that? Maybe it's suited better for higher priced department heads, people that are making six figures, like people that would relocate. I don't want to say any one department head's more important than the other, but certainly the police chief and fire chief protect me more than the recreation director does. So there's that. And then I'm not in favor of the waiving at all being in there, but I think it's also something that should be maybe changed to 6 votes. And when we're talking about the importance of this, if it's going to be in there, I think more people have to be on board. But if we were to have this meeting in December that Councilor Adams was referencing before, and we have a few different amendments on there, I wouldn't be opposed to having an amendment to vote to accept the language in 426 or strike or change to 6 instead of 5. I wouldn't mind putting in front, Councilor Rivas was mentioning 424, striking the word alone. I mean, if we're going to have a meeting to make these amendments or not and then certify this to go to the election, then, these are concerns that we can most definitely throw on there. But I don't support the waiving. If we're going to leave it there, I'd rather see it 6. Maybe department head should be changed to police chief, fire chief, DPW, inspections. I mean, some of the more prominent, more expensive positions. Thank you.
Council Steves.
I actually don't have a problem with going to 6 votes if that's what the council wants for that one.
Can't hear you.
I have no problem with
He has no
that.
problem.
And as far as to go back to what you sent a couple of times ago, I think as far as the idea of putting in the clause that grandfathers, I think what we want to do is probably put it in so that it starts upon the start of the fiscal year after this charter is approved.
Right. That's what I said. Yep.
Okay.
7/1/23.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, actually, we don't know if it'll be approved in '23. It'll depend on when it goes to the ballot, when it goes to the legislature. They can take a year to do something. The last charter came back to us, a year and a half after we approved it, I think.
Well, a point of clarification, if I may. It says in there, somewhere in this charter, as I read the whole thing yesterday, that the amendments are enacted on July 1st. I mean, if there's a holdup in certifying it in the court or something in the state.
If it's enacted in July, it's enacted at the beginning of the fiscal year after both the voters and the legislature approve it. That's
I
the
thought it
time.
already went to the Attorney General, beforehand,
We don't
ready
have to go to the Attorney General.
Okay.
No,
Our town government doesn't go to the Attorney General.
I spoke with
goes to the
one of our
legislature.
representatives last week, and he said that when we've got a finished document, to send it to the town attorney to be cleaned up, put into proper language, proper respect, and then send it to him. And he and the other representative representing this area would take care of business in the State House. And in the meantime, we would be voting on what we need to put in front of the townsfolk to vote on as well.
Right.
So, Mr. Chair, then, if they vote in June, it'll be after the State House looks at it. So it should be ready to go. If it gets voted in June, you can start using the charter on July 1st if the State House has already approved what we're putting out there. Yeah, sure, if the people of Southbridge elect this, we're ready to go and certify it for July 1st. It should be ready to go, right? Or am I misunderstanding you?
I'm not sure what you're saying.
Like, if this charter goes before the ballot on June, and it is elected yes to change the charter, one blanket vote,
Yeah.
is it already been, you said that the lawyer's going to take it to the State House.
Yes.
So it's ready to go. June 12th, whatever the election day is, they vote yes, July 1st, it should be good to go. It should be our new charter.
Provided the State House is approved.
Right, they would have done that a couple months prior, hopefully.
Oh, well, that's the point,
I
hopefully.
see what you're saying.
Hopefully.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay. Counsel Lazo.
The State House has to see it after the vote,
Exactly.
the way I understood it.
Or it can go either way, but it can go-
In other words, we're knocking, our Charter Commission hammered the 10. We're going to knock the 10.
Right.
We're going to send it out for legal proofing to go to the ballot in the proper context. It will be voted by the people of Southbridge, and then it's sent off to the legislature to make it law. After the vote.
Exactly.
When they do that, then your charter is now law.
Exactly.
All right. It sounds right. It's a little bit different from what I recall from reading previous agenda from the past in terms of what's going on, but I'll take your word for it, and I'll confirm it and make sure that we're doing it the right way. Counsel Adams.
Real quick, I believe Councilor Lazo is correct in that matter. It still has to go through them to approve it, right? Because they can come back and say, this is null and void, or whatever it may be. What are the people really voting on at that point in time? So I think that's a secondary, and once the state approves it, then we're good to go from that point on. I agree with you on that one. I believe that based on the lawyer's conversation. But clarify.
Mr. Chairman?
We'll get it right.
Just a quick question. I remember in previous discussions, we were talking about whether or not we would have one single up or down vote on the whole charter versus votes on certain sections of the charter. Because what if we have a situation where if we have certain sections that pass here but don't pass the legislature or vice versa? I don't remember exactly how we did it back the last time we did the charter changes. I mean, I think some of the issues that we've been debating up here, I think that the voters may want to vote on them individually as opposed to a blanket vote.
And I believe that's what was
I think that's what we
voted on in the
intended.
past.
Yeah.
I believe it was done that way. Counsel Lazo.
I think what the piece that's missing is once the Attorney General's office gets involved before it goes to the ballot. After it's voted, the legislature votes it law.
Okay, that's where I'm getting confused, is the
Right.
Attorney General is what I'm
Right,
getting
the AG
up,
is
not
the
counting it.
legal-
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Counsel Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you know how many changes are in this charter? I was just briefly looking at it. There must be 50 changes. Is your proposal to put 50 ballot questions on next year's election? Because that's what it sounds like to me. I don't see how we could do that. I
No,
don't think anybody would show up to vote if we had some 50.
Counsellor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we're off topic just a little bit, and we probably need to get back on to what we're looking at. But to answer Councilor Marquetti's point, the small ones, the commas, the grammar, and stuff like that goes into one lump sum, right?
Who's going to determine that?
Well, we have, as we went through it. We will. We'll make that vote, and then the Attorney General will take a look at it at that point. Now, the bigger ticket items, when you're talking about if somebody's going to live here or not, or whatever it may be, that those need to be in separate ballot questions.
And I bet you there's at least 20 of those.
Could be.
There are quite a few.
Never going to vote. People won't show up to vote if you have some of that.
Well, I hope they do.
Well, we'll see.
All right.
We'll see. Anything else on 425 and 426? Very good. 424, I believe you wanted to address, Councilor Rivas, was the, just the word alone?
Yeah, I think that there are other factors to consider besides merit and fitness. I think that in a town like ours, cultural competency is something, but I have a problem with the word alone. I think that there's other factors, other measurements that you would, kind of measure your fire chief, police chief, and director, like all of these department heads, those two things are not the only two factors that you would measure for someone's capability to do those jobs.
Very good. Councilman Montigny.
Thank you. To the previous speaker's point, I don't disagree with you about the word alone. I think, because you have to go back and ask yourself too, like, what was the intention of the people that wrote this when they wrote it? And I don't think they were intending to cause any sort of issue that you might be bringing up. I think the merit and fitness thing is every time we vote, it says qualified, the manager's recommendation, and it says pending physical. I mean, even when I got hired as department head for cable, I had to go get a physical, which was nothing. It was, but, so I think that's where the merit and fitness, I don't think it means you need to, run a marathon or something. I think 50 years ago, it was a different discussion, but, striking alone and putting included but not limited to merit and fitness. I mean, something like that. If you're looking to clean up the politically correctness of it, I'm not opposed to it. But I think that's where they were going with it, was just get your physical. But thank you.
Councilor Steves.
Honestly, the way I read this, I think merit and fitness are actually, I don't think it was intended to be physically health fitness at all. It was intended to be fitness for the job functions, which essentially means merit and fitness are redundant, really, because there's only a handful of jobs where health fitness is even a relevant factor. Police, fire, those kinds of things. They have to go through some sort of a fitness test for perfectly good reasons. Most other jobs, they don't. It doesn't matter. But as far as this, the rest of this factor here goes, I mean, there's so many. This is the clause where we had issues back, a couple of months back about appointing the DPW, other DPW officials, because it was under this clause that it gave us the authority to do it, and nobody recognized it was there until it kind of came up. And I don't even remember exactly what triggered it, but I think it was Dave that brought it up at one point. Or I don't remember who brought it up. Somebody brought it up at one point. And I mean, I think Councilor Rivas is to some degree right about the idea that there are other factors that are involved in some of these jobs. I do think we need to be careful about making sure we don't dilute it so much that we end up putting people in who are not really suited to be, say, police or fire chiefs, under circumstances that other factors get weighed too much. On the flip side, we also don't want to underrate those other factors either. And I'm not saying you suggested that. But I think we just need to be careful about making sure that we strike the right balance.
Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any problem leaving it just as it is. I mean, merit is quite vague.
Yeah.
You have to be, pretty qualified to get the job. That could come under merit. Fitness, I would want somebody that could, be able to do the physical demands of the job. So I have no problem leaving it just as it is. Thank you.
Councilor Montigny.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't have a problem leaving it the way it is either. But again, I understand you need your fire chief and your police chief to be fit. I feel like if they're at the role where they're being interviewed for that, they probably already are anyway. But even without the changes, I mean, it's telling you your town accountant and your head librarian need to pass a fitness test. I really think that these people, when they made this, were talking about just the physical. I mean, it's already in there, a librarian and all these things. It's not a discriminatory clause, but clean it up any way you want. Thank you.
Well, when they say fitness, I don't think they mean just physically fit. I think they mean the overall.
The physical, going to doctor.
Physical.
No.
So, can I,
Mr. Jim,
Councilor Lazo.
fit for the job means mentally fit.
Exactly.
There's a lot more to fitness than your body. I mean, I'm sure the treasurer doesn't have to go work out to balance the accounting sheet. So I think what they're trying to say here, I don't see what other councilors see. I see merit and fit for the job.
Exactly.
Get rid of the
That's what
word
I said.
alone, I don't have a problem with that.
That's what I
You
said.
know, I mean, I think fit for the job is what I thought could be mentally fit. Could be merit, qualified, I mean, I don't know why the word alone is there, to be honest with you. I'm with you.
Cultural competency is fit for the job.
Councilor Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Councilor Lazo. It's mental fitness, physical fitness, whatever it may be, and I think that encompasses everything that we're trying to look for in a good candidate
Yeah,
for the job. And that if that's cultural understanding and classes and all that, I think that encompasses that alone right there. Besides the merit, I would actually, I don't have a problem getting rid of alone either, but I think the mental fitness of it is psychological, that you don't want to put somebody in the wrong spot, especially under stress and, all that kind of stuff. And, I won't go on. I am okay with what it says right here. Thank you.
Anything else on section 4.2, chapter 4, section 2? Section 3, power to appoint town boards and commissions. Section 4, power to rescind appointments.
Oh, yes, I have one.
Council Steves.
Yeah. This is something I was thinking about, and I remember when this whole issue came up shortly before I joined the council, maybe a year and a half or so. And I think that really it's about time that we get rid of section 4-4-2. Because I don't think it makes any sense, really. And it seems,
Which section? I'm sorry.
4-4-2. The section that says,
It's
said
struck
power
out.
shall not apply to quasi-judicial bodies as determined by the town attorney.
It is
It
being
doesn't-
struck out.
It's struck
Huh?
out.
It is struck out.
It isn't in my copy.
That's out.
So,
Struck out.
Oh, it isn't in my copy. So,
Right.
okay, good.
Okay. Section 5, reorganization plans by the town manager. Section 6, removal of the manager. Section 7, acting town manager.
oh, you know what? Okay.
Councilor Adams.
Is it, okay, under the acting of town manager, we now have an assistant town manager. Nine times out of 10, the chain of command would be, I understand why we had it here as far as Karen, or I should say not Karen, the position of the accountant. But now that we've created an assistant town manager, it should be a role who should roll right into the acting town manager at that point in time. And I haven't looked it over, but I believe that should be changed.
Councilor Rivas, then Councilor Lazo.
Yeah, that was the same question I had, and I think in other towns it is followed sort of that chain of command where you have an assistant town manager who becomes the acting town manager and triggers like the search committee and all of those other pieces. But yeah, I agree with Councilor Adams.
Okay, Councilor Lazo.
I'm having a tug of war with this. The reason why it was always the finance, before, we had the police chief, sometimes the fire chief, depending on
Right, that's true.
what was going on in town. It was decided because of the finance person being the acting town manager on the short term, would be in charge of the finance, which would, as far as steady she goes with the ship, let the finance person handle it. Now we have an assistant town manager, which I vehemently disagreed on making the assistant town manager HR person. The HR department belongs, I'm going to say it like I said at the beginning, when I talk to different people who have HR departments in town in their big companies, the HR department is supposed to be over here. I'm not against an assistant town manager in place rolling into it, but you're going to be rolling an HR person into the manager's position, which I think HR and the manager was a major mistake by the council and the manager to put them together. They don't belong together. HR is a employee's division. It should have been away from the manager's office, but we integrated it, which is a different design, and I'm not in favor of that, so I wouldn't be in favor of rolling the assistant town manager HR. Assistant town manager, if it was alone, I'd roll it in. But I think that's a major problem.
I have someone over here? Counselor Steves and then Counselor Adams.
Yeah, I just want to actually, I'd like to ask the manager a question actually about this one. What was the, because I don't remember when we talked about this and when you created this position, what was your thought process for combining the HR job and the assistant town manager's title? Because that might kind of help us understand what we're doing with this.
Thank you, Councilor Steves. Through you, quite frankly, I needed some help in my office, and I needed an HR director in trying to be mindful of the head count that we had here. I merged the two in an effort to ensure that we didn't increase our full-time equivalents. I thought at the time we could have sustained the separate positions in the budget. I probably would have recommended otherwise. We were going through an unprecedented time with COVID.
Right.
And I did not want to do anything other than a level service budget. So at the time, realizing the issues that we had with payroll, benefits, onboarding, I realized we needed somebody, and that if there was any downtime, and I underestimated the amount of downtime, I would have tried to split it. But that was the rationale at the time. Maybe at some point in time we have the capacity in our budget to expand the two, but we're doing as much as we can right now. It's primarily HR.
Oh, yeah.
But I've shifted some responsibilities, including we're working on procurement and other things that are going on. And I get Ms. Rabena involved in as much as I can when she has the capacity to do it.
So under those circumstances, and I don't make it very clear, just they're talking about the position, not the person. Do you think that it would make more sense to leave it as the finance director, as would be the person that would be the acting town manager, or the assistant town manager / HR director?
Again, in a perfect world, taking the person out, because Ms. Rabena is new to municipal government, she's an HR professional who wanted to learn the assistant town manager role. You may have somebody that has significant experience in both sides. It's hard to tell. You could put an or in there. It's subject to the council, your assistant town manager, HR, or the finance director, because you might find one is better suited. That gives you some more flexibility if you so choose. If you were to do that, you might want to play subject to, council approval.
I think we do that anyway.
Well, yes, yeah. But, you could vet the two of them, and you could sit down and talk to them. You might find one would rather the role than the other. So it gives you some options.
That makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Adams.
So after Councilor Lazo had a good explanation there, just my mindset automatically goes to the next person as we look at an assistant town manager. We have the department we have, and that's the way it goes, and we voted on it, and here we are. But I will agree with being the HR side of the house and then being a town manager or acting town manager, maybe there will be a little conflict at that point in time. Obviously, they'll work well together no matter what it is, but maybe we separate that until we separate possibly the two positions as the town manager had alluded to, and go from there. But I don't have a problem with this staying the way it is. It does make sense after a while. I just don't want that conflict that it may happen. Not that it would with our current, I'm just saying in the future. That's it.
Councilor Marquetti, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would agree, just leave it as is, because we have the final say on it. So, thank you.
Right.
Councilor Rivas.
I like the option of adding or, sort of giving us that option down the road. If those positions are separated, then we would have that option rather than waiting to change the charter again. I think just having some options there is a good idea.
Councilor Lazo.
I would say leave it the way it is right now, and for the future council to break that position, to advertise a assistant town manager, and if the HR person wants to apply for that separate job, let her apply for that job and let people compete for that job. And then after, if she gets that job, then we'd have to replace the HR person. I am determined to correct that wrong while I'm on the council. It's not the person I'm talking about, it's the design. And the thing is, In order to get the assistant town manager, which would have been a battle at the time, it was easier to put it together, so you got your assistant town manager and your HR. Because we all were in agreement that that HR department was a mess. And we needed to straighten it out, and we did. But I think we made a big mistake when we put them together, but I think we can correct that. In the meantime, Karen Hanoi is the rock star. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if there's no other discussion.
Well, Councilor Steve has spoken. Councilor Montigny.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I would say there's a huge conflict of interest. Would be doing a big disservice to our employees. How can you go complain about your boss if your boss of the whole town is the HR director? So again, it's the problem the previous speaker says, to split up. And to Councilor Adams' previous point earlier tonight, you can put any charter change at any time on an election, and I think if we manage to split the positions successfully, it would be that year that you would decide to ask the voters for that change if you wanted to add or. I don't think it should be done now when it's not already in place. And Councilor,
That makes sense.
What, you want to go say something?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I don't want to apologize. Keep going, Councilor.
Okay,
apologize.
I was just going to suggest, if we're wrapping up the discussion for Chapter 4, and you base any of the way the future of this meeting tonight is going to go on the minutes from the last town council meeting that you had in December, January about this, we usually take a recess around 9 o'clock. I feel like, based on the minutes, that we're going to kind of fly through up until Chapter 10. There was a lot of concerns by councilors in the last council for Chapter 10. I feel like we might be able to get right to the finish line quickly, but I feel some councilors would appreciate a recess,
You
a
need a
quick
recess.
one.
The elder ones?
If we're, listen, I'm not going to make a joke about that. But if Chapter 4 is over, you know, I think it's a good point to just give a quick break.
Any further discussion on Section 7 or on Chapter 4? Very good. 5-minute recess. Welcome back. We're now out of recess. We're moving on to Chapter 5, School Committee. Any questions on Section 1, composition? Section 2, powers and duties. Chapter 6, Department of Public Works, Section 1, establishment. Section 2, powers and duties of the director. That's the end of that. Chapter 7, Town Attorney, Section 1, Appointment and Duties. Very good. Chapter 8, Town Audit.
Oh, hold
Oh,
on.
sorry.
One thing, just one, it's a technicality. We keep using the term town attorney throughout this section, just for clarification. At the very last sentence, we say town council. We should be consistent.
So you want,
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, where it says town council, S-E-L, it should just say
Oh.
town attorney, just to be consistent.
Town Attorney, yep. Section 712.
That's 7-1-2.
Change. Very good. Okay, Chapter 8, Town Auditor, Appointments and Duties. Chapter 9, Licensing, Section 1, Liquor Licensing Board. Section 2, Licensing other than liquor. Very good. Chapter 10, Financial Provisions and Procedures. Section 1, Applicability of General Law. Section 2, Contracts. Section 3, Submission of Budget and Budget Message. Section 4, Proposed Budget. Section 5, Notice of Public Hearing on Proposed Budget. Section 6, Adoption of the Budget. Section 7, Capital Improvements Program. Section 8, Notice of Public Hearing on Capital Programs. Section 9, Supplemental Appropriations. Section 10, Emergency Appropriations. Section 11, Reduction or Restriction of Use of Appropriations. Section 12, Transfer of Appropriations. Okay, we'll start with Councilor Montigny.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I propose that this not be changed at all. I believe that the language there is fine. It's more than adequate the way it is. And I can understand why people would want to change this. We often complain about the $40 transfer or maybe even the $125 transfer. You don't really hear about any transfers too much higher than that. But I don't think that, as I was explaining it earlier today, this is not a problem posed by the Constitution. The problem that we're having is that us as a board, the specific counselors that make up this board, some have more things to say than others, some have a difference of opinions. I'd say that this council, in my opinion, we have a lot of different opinions, and I think that's a great thing for a town council, but it makes for a little bit of longer meetings, something that I personally don't have any problem doing, filming the meetings for all those years. It doesn't bother me now. So it's something that we need to work out with each other, in my opinion, and not something that we need to reach into the Constitution of Southbridge and change. Most certainly not the way it's written here, because, and I know we're going to discuss this probably like we have other things tonight, but you open it up for 5 years. None of us are on council anymore, and I know it says town council may adopt policies and procedures with regards to limitations on such transfers. I hate the web of give the manager blanket power to do anything he wants. He can rearrange the entire budget on July 1st if he wants, because all the money is unencumbered. But we can make a policy to walk that back. Like, not only do I not agree with that, but in the future, a town council that decides to go rogue and give up all their powers to the manager can just say, hey, that policy that we wrote that limited the manager to transfers of only $5, just to be extreme, let's just remove it. Let's just remove it and give the manager the ability with the finance director to do anything they want. And the intention of this charter change is that we are going to put a good policy in place. But you can't trust the future council, you can't trust the future manager. Again, it's not about us, and it's not about Mr. McCall. It's about, do we change the Constitution for this problem? And I say no. I do not believe that this change should ever be made the way it's written. And what I want is for the council to support leaving it alone, or if you're gonna write this whole thing where you give them all the power and hope that your policy, you just pray that nobody screws everything up, because that's all they have to do is just say, no policy, council can do whatever they want. Put a dollar amount in here. I've never heard anybody complain about more than $100, $200. I mean, you're not going to be able to, and I'll bring it up so we could just get it out of here. You're not going to be able to move $200 from 100 accounts to buy a forklift. I want it to not change, but if there's no support for that, we have to come to a compromise. You cannot. You're enabling a future council to nuke the town in some regards, and it cannot go through like this, and it should be left alone. Thank you.
Councilor Lazo.
If you read the original 10-12-1, at any time during the fiscal year, the town council may, upon recommendation of the town manager, through the finance director, transfer part or all unencumbered appropriations balanced among program departments, et cetera, et cetera. This is written, the original 1012, unamended, lays out the powers of recommendation to the manager, the role of the council, and the role of the finance director. I think the 1012-1 original is actually black and white on how the finances should work. I am not in favor of the amendments when you start putting may and then, you know, and then policies. Again, put it in the charter. It's your constitution on how to handle the money. I think 1012-1 originally got it right. Thank you.
Councilor Steves, then Councilor Marquetti.
I'm going to let Councilor Marquetti go because I'm looking for something.
Very good. Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Councilor Montigny. I think it should be left the way it was. I'm not even in favor of putting any dollar amount in it. I think it should be staying the way it was. If that's the only power, one of the only powers that this town council has, and that's the power of the purse. And if we give that up, then I would agree with Councilor Dow. What are we doing here? So leave it the way it is. I don't care if it's a dime. I think the town manager should have to come to this council to make the transfer. And as Councilor Montigny said, if we change it to this, on day one of the fiscal year, the town manager could change the entire budget as we voted on, because it's all unencumbered. It also flies in the face of what the town council's powers are, and that's the power of appropriation. So I just think that we should just leave it exactly the way it was and not change it at all. Thank you.
Very good. Councilor Steves.
Okay, first off, I want to clarify something too. Which version of 10-12-1 are you referring to, Councilor Lazo? Because the one that is currently on the website does indeed say that the, I'll just read it. At any time during the fiscal year, the town council may, upon recommendation of the town manager through the finance director, transfer part or all of any unencumbered appropriation balance among the programs within the department, office, or agency, and may transfer part or all of any unencumbered appropriation balance from one department, agency, or office agency or the other.
That's the original.
That's the current chart.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
And that's what I was talking about.
That's what you're referring to. Okay, just to clarify. Okay. Because I personally don't have, I remember we've kind of debated this back and forth repeatedly for years now. And I can understand the argument, and I can also understand the wish to keep tabs on, close tabs on the way the finances are spent. That is indeed part of our job. I would like to point out, though, that I think I've said this before in previous iterations of this situation, by creating a clear policy, we're not abdicating our responsibility to do that. I don't see how the council has, obviously, future councils have the right to change their policies. That's their job, just like it is our job now. And when we're not here, I don't, however, do not foresee the kind of rather extreme events happening that Councilor Montigny cited earlier about the entire council just nuking the budget as they created it, because that would be total dereliction of duty, and I don't see them doing that. I tend to think that the people that will come forth after we leave the council will hopefully be at least as competent and confident as we are. And individuals may be wrong, and that people make mistakes. But I think that the future citizenry of our town are just as capable as we are. And I think they're capable of understanding these issues as well. And I think the idea of having the text that is being proposed here, the town council may adopt policies and procedures with regards to limitations on such transfers, yada, yada, yada. I think that makes some sense. I mean, it really is technically, it really is just clarifying what we already have the authority to do. It doesn't, we can do this now. It just puts it in language to make it very clear, that the council has that right to do that. And And I don't think anybody is saying that we are going to just walk away from fiscal responsibility, because that's our job, is fiscal responsibility, among other, as well as policy responsibility. And I think that yeah, I guess I've said what I have to say.
Okay, Council Lazo.
I agree with everything except for the policy-making part. When you say that's our job, finance, it should be embossed in the charter, which it is right now as the original model.
And it still is.
I know that we say that our department heads and our people are professionals and we have to trust them, but they give me reason not to trust. The forklift issue was the first one. A lot of people went around for that one. I was not on council. I was looking to run for council, and this creative financing produced a, I don't know, $60,000 forklift purchase without authorization.
I completely agree. I was
And
here at
then
the time, and I had
that's
a huge
what
problem with that.
created the tightening of the belts with the finance and the trust. Trust and verify, as one of my counselors to the left always says. Then there was a drone purchased on et cetera. Again, you turn around, you say, what was the intent? That's not what the intent of et cetera was. But anyways, going forward, they have educated me on how to watch out for those pitfalls as you operate with your department heads. Will I trust? But I will verify. The original writing of 10-12-1 is direct, it's exact, and it can't get altered. You put the policy part in, and then you can play games with it. Thank you.
Councilman Tigney.
Thank you. First, I just got to say, if this is one that ends up, if we don't take this out, this has to be one that's split up on questions, because it's just not right to be able to just blanket this in here. This is so important. You're taking something that's already black and white and making it so gray, especially with the policy. The future council could change the policy to $10,000, not necessarily nuking the place, but that's making it certainly not what the intention was when it was made. And 242, you cite 242 in there, and if you go back and look at 242, it says, the town council may enact bylaws and other measures and rules and regulations not inconsistent with this charter. Making a policy would be completely inconsistent. I mean, I know you're putting it in there and you say you could make a policy to be inconsistent. Now you're taking something that's black and white, you're making it gray, and you're saying, hey, by the way, I know it says 242 says we're not going to be inconsistent, but I'm going to make it so in 10-12-1, you could be inconsistent here, because I know it said in the charter we can't do that, but let's just do it anyway, and let's just change everything. And when it's not even broken, we want this change. Why? Read the minutes from the meetings and tell me why they want to make a change. Go back for yourself and get the charter review minutes and tell me who and why wants the change. The word isn't, we get fed up with listening to each other talk and hold each other accountable for things, and certain counselors have lots of questions about $45 transfers, and we don't have the time to sit. Well, if you didn't have the time to sit here and listen to it, you shouldn't have ran for council. You don't change the Constitution because you don't have time at night. You're going to take something, appropriation powers, black and white, make them gray. You're going to contradict 242, even though you say you're not, you are. It's a terrible suggestion, and it didn't get added until the final meeting. That's all I have to say for now.
Anyone else? Council Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilor Steves, on several occasions when I'm at a general government meeting with you, you talk about how you really don't like bureaucracy very much. And to me, if you do this, if we allow this to change like this, you are adding to the power of bureaucracy. And that's where an elected town council, we sort of are kind of a check and balance against the bureaucracy.
Yeah, I agree.
I like Section 2401. Now, Councilor Montigny talks about 242. I like 2401. The council, except as otherwise provided in this charter, all general corporate legislative policymaking and appropriation powers of the town shall be vested in the town council. And then we get to 1012-1, and you want to take that away from us. So I like to be a check and balance on bureaucracy. You seem to be the type of person who doesn't like bureaucracy. I know that 241 says accept, but I like to see the town council have appropriation powers. So I'd like to leave it just as it was and not change it. Thank you.
Council Steves.
Nothing is taking away our power to check the bureaucracy. Nothing is taking away our responsibility to handle the finances. This is just simply stating that the council has the authority. It clearly states what we actually already have the authority to set policy based on transfers. We already have that authority. And I think part of the issue, as Councilor Lazo pointed out, this whole issue exploded because of that forklift transfer from several years ago. And some of us, I think I was the only one who was there at the time. And it was a huge mess. And it came up behind the scenes because they transferred, they were transferred from line items within the same department. They weren't transfers across departments. But either way, that shouldn't have happened. I think we all agree why that shouldn't have happened. That is exactly why the idea of this kind of language was originally floated as a town council rules and regulations issue, which we actually did go through, we approved, and then it got nixed like the very next year. Or it wasn't followed. I don't know exactly what happened with that, but it basically ceased to exist.
Council, you wish to have a point?
I don't think it was ever overruled, but we did actually vote to approve it back at that time.
Councilor Adams, you
Just
have a
point
point.
of clarification. That following year, when the policy was set about the transfers, one thing made very clear, that percentage
Yes.
that was allowed to be in there.
Right.
It may be $15 in one department, but it could be $200,000 in another department. I think that's what we caught.
Right.
Not that we opposed
Exactly.
it.
Exactly.
That was the one of the things where
Right.
their budget over here is different than that budget over there. So
Right, exactly.
That's
Exactly.
a big transfer.
I totally
That's
agree
what-
with you. And that was part of the discussion that we had, was that we wanted to make sure we can limit the transfers of those gigantic sums, say $250,000 within the police department for one thing or another that we had no idea what was going on. Now, just picking that department because it happens to be one of the biggest departments. And doing this still allows us to have the oversight, and we're still, quite frankly, this phrasing allows the council to do it going forward. It doesn't necessarily say that we have to do it going forward. We don't necessarily have to create a policy. We can do if the council as a majority wants to do the $5 and $10 and $15 transfers, they can. If they want to set a policy that sets a ceiling on, let's say, $1,000, they can do that too. I mean, I would agree that we should not be setting it as a percentage like Councilor Adams just mentioned because of that issue. And this is still, the checks and balances are still there.
Councilor Rivas.
I'd like to hear from the town manager on this section. Just so, I don't necessarily disagree because that is our role to have oversight. I'm just wondering, how that would impact, how the change in wording would impact sort of the day-to-day operations.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councilor Rivas. So I like to look at efficiencies in government. That's one thing. But I come from a background where I spent about 30 years going to town meeting. And generally speaking, the legislative body would deal with the appropriations and the budget, but vote on the manager would have to come back for interdepartmental transfers. So I couldn't take from, say, the fire department to the police department without coming back to the legislative body. I think it all goes back to some of the things that you touched upon earlier, that you have checks and balances with the manager, and you have to have some level of trust because you're paying whoever is in this position an awful lot of money to make day-to-day decisions with the finance director that you pay a lot of money to keep the town operating. You know, you could set dollar amounts, you can do a lot. I think the issue oftentimes with the intra-departmental transfers is some of the things that affect the day-to-day operations. And we've had to have, in my time here, a couple of things where we've had to rush it to council, or even recently try and have a special town council meeting where we thought we were going to lose a contractor. There was a change order. We didn't have the money there. Wanted to be able to just take care of that one issue, if you recall, from the skate park. I could find other issues that came up in a similar fashion. So I can see that on a day-to-day basis, there might be small things. It all comes back to trust. You know I've heard many stories about the forklift. I mean, I think you've known me long enough now that I'm not going to try that, because that's not me. And I think other things have come to light. You have much more contact and connection nowadays with most managers. When I talk with my peers, I talk to probably 2 or 3 counselors every day. I try and share an email every day like I share with you. The ability to reach and understand what's going on is a lot different when some of these other issues may have happened. So your ability to get people. So there's more light, if you will, more transparency in what the manager's doing on a day-to-day basis that should give you some comfort level to know whether the person you've hired is a good manager or somebody who's not following the will of council. So to get back to your original question, I think it does help with the efficiency of the day-to-day operation to have some level with the intra-departmental. If, say, we had an example the other year where the police chief wanted to move something over to pay for ammunition for annual training. That some of those could be conceivably, I don't like the cliche, but a no-brainer that he just needs to do that. Other things I could see where people would be concerned that somebody's going to do something and purchase something that they shouldn't. So that's about all I can shed light on, excuse me.
All set?
Thank you.
Councilor Montigny, then Councilor Dow.
Thank you. I very much appreciate the town manager's opinion on the situation. I don't necessarily think outside. It's a good question. How does it affect the day-to-day operations? But you're gonna ask the town manager, hey, you want more power? What's he supposed to say? I thought it was very well said. I mean, he's putting a campaign so he can have our power. Good. Now, in the end, you're taking something that's black and white, making it gray. You're 241. You're getting rid of appropriations, and 242, it says you can't do it, and you're twisting it and turning it and abusing 242 to make yourself believe that you can actually change the charter like that. And look, when a previous speaker, Councilor, said that you don't believe that in the future that the people that are elected here or the next town manager here, because it's not about us and it's not about our trust with Mr. McCall, which we seem to have a lot of right now tonight, but it's about council and manager. You think that they're not going to be that bad in the future? No. I think they could be. The fact of the matter is that you and I opinions on that means nothing because we have no idea what the future is. If you have a crystal ball under your seat, I'd like to see it. But this should not be changed. You're playing with fire, and none of it even makes any sense. It's a web of messed up stuff. I'm all set.
Thank you, Councilor Dow.
Pass. I changed my mind.
You changed your mind? Okay.
Okay.
Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When I listen to Councilor Steves, when I listen to you, the way you talk about this it's almost like it's like a reversal or something. We're not changing anything by taking it away. To me, just leaving it alone, you could still make policies if you left it alone. With all due respect to the town manager, he does come from a representative form of government in Chelmsford, so it's not exactly the same as here in Southbridge, and I think we should just leave it alone, and that's my only opinion. Thank you.
Council Lazo.
It was a good question by Councilor Rivas. What will it do to the day-to-day operations? The answer is nothing. I have sat and watched. I've worked with the manager. And I know as a subcommittee chairman, anytime he's had a problem, we can call a meeting on a moment's notice, take care of the problem. I know that Peg Dean and P&D have been running ragged, hurry up, we got to get this stuff done. This council has answered the call to prove that 10-12-1 works. It's not broken, don't fix it. And the thing is to put more writing in there, for what? Policy, you don't need a policy. It's written absolutely perfect for council manager, finance director. So going forward, we already got tested on a couple of financial things. And during those tests, the council said, if the department head did a better job of budgeting, you wouldn't have this problem, but we'll correct it anyways by having a meeting and transferring the money, whether it's $50 or $5,000. This council has answered the bell on every one of those times. I say leave it the way it is. It's not broke, don't fix it.
Okay, so it's safe to assume then that there should, I'm sorry. Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Real quick, I was looking for an email from back in 2018. Just couldn't find it right now off the top of my head. But first of all, sky's not falling. I mean, the hysteria that's happening right now is ridiculous. But I will say the sky's not falling. We're okay. Everybody's all right. We still got 2 feet on the ground. We're okay. But I will say this. The town council has, if there was a transfer needed of 41 cents, whatever it may be, town council set up a, and there's been times also where the chair has worked with the town council and the town manager say, get it done. Get it done. We've had to do that with a boiler issue. We've had to make emergency decisions. And if 41 cents is an emergency for something, just to get it done, get the damn thing done. I also will say this. Though I thought long and hard about this, and trust me, I'm getting it from everywhere. Do I think the town council, most towns let them do inter-department transfers as long as you meet the end budget of that department, or not, and it goes back. So a lot of towns already do that, and they trust. And I was there when that, we'll call it a $100,000 forklift now, went through, right? So, and I saw that, and I was a candidate, and I said, my big word is, as everybody knows, micromanagement. We delegate and we pay people good money to do the right things at the right time. At that point in time, was not one of them. No, it wasn't. By the department head but the way it was taught at the town council, I sided with the town manager at the time because of the hysteria that was happening. Fix the damn problem. And if I take a look at the notes in there, they also, from the committee, they stated in there that I'm not in all agreement that it just allow transfer carte blanche as far as the town manager is concerned to do all that kind of stuff, because we are a different form of government. But they had brought up some legitimate concerns, but it's never stopped us from making that rash, real quick emergency meeting. Now that we're allowed to do it on Zoom or telephonically, it works for us. And I'll be honest with you, I do believe that somehow or another we should allow the town manager up to a certain amount of transfers. But it's already been proven through legal services that even if the 10-12-1 states what it says, we get a legal opinion that allow the town council to do the policy, set the policy up. So tomorrow, or on 11/21 at the next town council meeting, I can ask the town chair or town council chair to put that policy in place to vote on it. Because legal has already said, you're good to go. And they've already done that. And that's how the council, before I got on board, was able to set that policy up, right? They just didn't do it on their own. They sought legal services, and they already said, you're fine. You have that power. The town council has that power to authority. Now, another thing, we talk about authority of the town council. Look, you guys brought it up, 241, 242. It tells you the authorities of the town council. The town council has a lot of authority. We're not giving away everything. We're not giving away the bank or anything like that. So at this point in time, I'm going to stick to 10-12-1, the way it's written, but don't tell me I'm not going to bring up a policy change to the town council to possibly change how the transfers are written. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Tigney, then Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you. Through you to Councilor Adams, I appreciate, I wasn't aware that there was already legal opinion that said that the charter's fine the way it is. And if I understand you correctly, when you say leave it the way it is, you mean don't accept the amendments. If you don't mind answering that, is that when you're?
That's what I'm saying right now.
Okay, then this should go to the council meeting that we are already putting all these amendments on, and we should be able to vote to remove that change unless it's one of these things that just gets added in. I mean, it should be taken out then. If that's, it should be taken out right now. I mean,
Well,
if it needs to be voted, then we should make sure that this goes on, because it's clear that 5 people have spoken tonight in a certain way about this.
Can I just make a point, Mr. Chair, just to the councilor? I hear it from the town employees. I've heard it from previous town managers that it's a hindrance. To me, I got it. I understand that, because if I was a town employee, I'd be saying the same thing. I would. I'd be saying, yeah, this is a waste of my time. I'm coming here for a 41-cent transfer. First of all, I don't need a department head to come in here for a 41-cent transfer. But what I'm saying is, and I got it, and I hear the town council, and I understand that side of it. I respect both sides. But there's already, and I'll find that email, and I believe it's probably in the policies itself of how it was set up and with legal requests. I just want to make it clear. You never know when you see there may be an agenda item saying, I'd like to be able to give the authority to the town manager for up to $100 or $200. We already got the legal saying before. I'm sure we can get it again.
Yeah,
it all depends on the lawyer.
And to close my comment, if you have that email, then don't change the Constitution. Thank you.
Councilor Marquetti, then Councilor Lazo.
I'm not going to keep hammering this one. I just want to say to Councilor Adams, you can get a legal opinion on anything.
That's right, you
But
can.
it's just an opinion, so that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
With all due respect to my
Councilor Lazo.
fellow colleague, Mr. Adams, I respect the 12-cent this and a 50-cent that and a $100 that. This is not here because of that. This is here because of bigger problems on higher numbers. And that's why it's good to, well, the manager's going to make a sales pitch. He's going to say, look, I got to transfer for stamps. Let me tell you something. If you know anything about front offices, whether it be the fire chief, police chief, know your budget, do your budget properly, and don't run out of money. There are some unforeseen things like bad winters where DPW cannot calculate salt and plowing. But if you've been a chief for over 5 years and you've bought stamps for that fire department, don't tell me that you're running out of money with office supplies. And that's my point. The thing is, it's here. I think leave it the way it is, but it's not the 10 cents that I'm worried about. And there isn't a problem because the council takes care of it. We as subcommittee chairmen, working with the chair, have sometimes let things by our subcommittee to save time go right to the committee because it was an emergency to take care of the problem. I don't see where this is a problem, and I don't see where this has to go forward the way it is. Thank you.
Anyone else? Very good. If I understand the sense of the council then, excuse me, if I understand the sense of the council, they'd like to see an item on a future agenda when we discuss all of the motions to revert back to the original
10, 12.
verbiage, the original 10-12-1, and to disregard the submitted changes.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilor Adams, then Councilor
Just
Steves.
real quick question. Did we even vote on the change on this? I don't think we ever did, so there's no need to,
Well, this was submitted by the committee as being a,
We
this
have
one
never
here was
actually
submitted-
voted on, the only change that we actually formally voted on was the change to acquire residency, I think. The other ones, the other proposed changes we do need to vote on, but
Right.
we haven't yet voted on.
I just want to make sure we're doing it right.
I
That's
believe
all I'm asking.
Yep, we're going to,
We really need
we have to
to
vote on it,
lay
that's
them
fine.
all
We can do
out
that.
and vote them out like all in order, so that we know where we are. 'Cause this is actually starting to get a little confusing, what we voted on, what we haven't voted on, and when we're doing this. And just so you know.
okay.
Oh, and by the way, just for everybody's information, I just found the old transfer policy proposal from, and I'm going to send it to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm going to vote it down.
Anything else on Section 12? Very good. Section 13, limitation effective date. Section 14, lapse of appropriations. Section 15, payments and obligations prohibited. And thus ends Chapter 10. Chapter 11, nominations and elections. Section 1, town elections. Section 2, eligibility of town voters. Section 3, filling of vacancies in elected town offices. Section 4, recall of elective officers. Section 5, election to be by plurality vote. That ends Chapter 11. Chapter 12, general provisions, initiative, petition, and referendum, Section 1. Section 2, ineligible measures. Section 3, initiative, petition. Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just reading over this quickly, I thought we had decided there was a problem with this one, that it would have to be double. They would have to go back out and get names again. I'm just reading this quickly, so I can't tell. Was that taken out? Did we take that out, or? I don't recall now. I think at the last time we talked about this section, if somebody went out and got names for a petition, they brought it back in, and then the council voted on it, they'd have to go back out and get names on a petition again. So didn't we take that out? But I'm not really seeing it here.
A point of clarification, if I read this correctly last night, I believe if you bring the petition to the council, if the council votes no, then you can go back and make a second petition to put it right onto the ballot. I'm not sure if that's this one, but I believe it is. This is the 5%. Should the town council reject the proposed bylaw, they may petition again.
All right.
I think, if I
Councilor Steves.
I think when we had that original discussion, I think the concern was basically forcing citizens to go out and do the double petitioning process, considering it's a pretty onerous thing just to get one petition.
Right.
Enough signatures to meet the 5% threshold is a pretty onerous number. I think the intent was, as I recall, was to have it so that if they've gone through the process and the council chooses not to adopt it, but I think the intent was to have it be put directly to the ballot without having to go get a second round of petition. I think that's unfair. Because they already did the work, why should they have to go do it again? It's obvious that there's a significant number of people in the community that want this issue to be addressed. And if the council chooses not to do it, then I think that the voters have the right to vote on it. They've already done the work, why do it again?
Yeah, so that's how I'm reading it here.
Yeah, I think that was-
1231, you go out and you get the names. You present it to the Board of Registrars who check the names. Then it's presented to the town council, and depending on what the town council does, you have to go back out and get 5% again. That's the way I'm reading it.
Well, that's the point. I think that's the way the law is currently written. I
Oh,
think
it
the
is.
idea was to change it so that the, let me see here, that the voters.
I think but I think the way it is now, isn't it, that if the council rejects it, it goes to the ballot. You don't have to go back out and get 5% again, because that's the way I'm reading it here. You have to go back out and get 5% once again, after you've already done it once.
I
Correct?
agree, you shouldn't have to.
Yeah,
Whatever you should-
point of clarification, to my understanding, the old way shows that you don't have to go out, and the new way with all this red lettering shows that you have to go back out
and do
again.
it again. Is that the way I'm reading it?
That's the way I understand it.
That's wrong. I don't think that should be that way. So I'd have to take a look at the old, you must have the old way written do you have the old charter on your? Oh, go
Yeah, I
ahead.
do.
Sorry.
If I may, read it, I have it here.
I've got it here too.
1233, upon presentation of the certified petition to the town council, it shall become the duty of the town council, within 30 days of receipt thereof, to pass and adopt or reject such bylaw or measure without alteration as to meaning or effect. Should the town council reject the proposed bylaw or measure, and then it goes legislation, it shall be the further duty of the town council to forthwith submit the question to a vote at the next regular town election,
You have it.
at which qualified voters of Southbridge shall vote on the question adopting or rejecting. So the old way, you just had to do it once. These,
And if they rejected it?
it goes
It goes
to the ballot. And now the red
The new way,
changes.
you gotta go out and do it again.
Do it again.
Yeah, so that's just too much.
What was
I
the
don't- I-
purpose of them, they're doing that?
Yeah, I don't mind taking that out.
I think that should be removed.
Strike
Don't
that.
you think?
In the same fashion of 10-12-1.
All right, is it the sense of the council that they want to see this as an agenda item?
Just remove,
Yeah,
to remove it.
To remove that red
Okay.
text, yeah. That's what I.
Leave it as is.
Okay, refer it. Very good. Anything else on Section 3, initiative petition? Section 4, referendum. Section 5, charter amendment and bylaw review. Section 6, severability. Section 7, specific provisions to prevail. Section 8, counting of days.
Just a quick question
Yeah.
for clarification. But under what is specifying the counting of days? Is it general law? Is it the charter? Is it bylaw? Because that actually varies under some circumstances.
But it says under this charter, does it not?
It says under the entire charter.
Yeah, it says under this charter, but unless otherwise specified. But I'm saying, my point is, it's specified by whom? By Mass General Law? By bylaw? By the charter itself?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Point of clarification, charter supersedes state law, I believe.
No, it doesn't.
Well,
No,
you
it
can
does
walk it
not.
back, you can't make it forward, you can walk it backwards.
So,
Counselor Adams.
well, in regular policies, no matter what, if you have a state policy, you can make it more stringent at the town level, but you cannot reduce the powers of what the state states.
Right.
So maybe we should look into the Mass
Look into
General
it.
Law on that.
That's 1281. 1281. All right, that's the second one to look into.
I take it the attorney didn't jump on this particular question?
No,
No?
no. That goes back to August of last year.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on counting of days?
No.
Very good. Chapter 13, transitional provisions. Section 1, continuation of existing laws. Section 2, disposition of certain special acts. Section 3, continuation of government and administration.
Is any of this section even relevant today? This is all like 1973 stuff.
I can't hear you.
Is any of this section even actually relevant today, since it seems to be mostly 1973 stuff?
It's my understanding that there was, I believe it was Pam Ledoux, was really paramount in bringing everything up to date and appropriately citing chapter and verse. She did a bang-up job of putting it together.
Whatever, it doesn't, I mean, if it's out of date, it's not really affect anything, I guess.
Section 4, transfer of records and property. Section 5, existing officials and employees. Section 6, effect on obligations, taxes, etc. Section 7, time of taking effect. That's section 7. I'm sorry.
I just
Councilor
wanted,
Steves.
yeah, I just want to point out, section 13-7-1, the last sentence of that first paragraph basically says that the entire council has to come up for re-election the very first election afterward, after we change it.
Striked out.
We should strike that.
It is.
Oh, okay. Because as I said, my version does not have a lot of these strikeouts, and I don't know why.
What date do you have? As is it January 5, 2022 special?
I'm actually using the Google Doc that was attached to our packets electronically, which has some of the strikeouts, but a lot of them are missing, and I don't know why. I've been adding a whole bunch of these strikeouts that I know should be gone, and they're not there.
Mr. Chair.
Councilor
Can
Adams.
you scroll down to the end of each page and just tell us what the date you're looking at? It should say January 5 of 2022.
Let's see, the last page, let's see, the bottom of this particular page, it doesn't have a date on it at all, actually. Yeah, it doesn't have a date on it at all.
Jeez.
Oh, yeah, it says January 5th, 2022, yeah.
Really?
Councilman
Mr. Chair, the packet I received from the manager's office in Friday's email, the PDF file there has the strikeouts. I don't have a Google Doc.
Okay,
I have a
'cause
PDF from
My
Ms.
PDF
Prescott.
does have them, but for some reason, the Google Doc does not.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what's up with that.
Chapter 4.
I've got an electronic copy.
Moving on to Chapter 14, Charter Commissions and Notes. Very good, we got through. Okay, it's my understanding that we've got potentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 changes that we'd like to see from what has been submitted previously, and that there'll be agenda items in the near future regarding these 8 potential changes, 8 or 9, depending upon how one of them works out with 425, and then we'll yay or nay at that point. Council Lazo.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to thank you as chairman of the council and Council Adams bringing this forward. I know this has been on the back burner for a while, and we finally got it in the forefront, and we're going to be taking care of it. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Tigney.
Thank you. I just wanted to suggest, since it's only about 8 items, I don't mind personally if it goes on a regular town council meeting in the future. I know you threw around maybe a special meeting, but I think we tried to schedule a special meeting on an off day one time, and I think it was this meeting actually was supposed to go for a Thursday or something. I would just suggest if we really are going to call a special meeting for these 8 items, if you could just do it on an off Monday, scheduled, way ahead of time. I think it can avoid being, confused with subcommittees. I think the fact that we had this town council of the whole on an off Monday, well, it was supposed to be. Today's Wednesday, right? It was supposed to be. I think it works better than Thursday, better than Wednesday, but I have no problem doing it a regularly scheduled meeting in December, especially if it's a lighter agenda. You wait till January. You don't need to certify it till the end, but any light agenda is fine with me. Thank you.
Very good. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Council Lazo, second by Council Marquetti. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, folks.